Hi everyone, Bill Miller here talking about emotional abuse, psychological abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. I don't suffer from all of them all of the time, but I definitely have used to be a big psychological abuser. In my recent past, it's only been not even 2 months, I guess about 2 months since I really kind of discovered, or it maybe hit me like a ton of bricks is a better term. But the past 2 months I've put in hundreds of hours of reading, watching videos, taking tests, everything I can possibly do to overcome it, and that's why I do these videos. I know no one's really ever going to watch these, but it's still my way of talking things through. I go through most of this, what I'm going through, I go through alone, which is kind of the only way that you can do it. You have support groups and so forth, but they're sometimes too supportive. That's my experience in all of this. My support groups are, they're very quick to point out that a lot of people are like, have this trait or that trait, or, my wife is also partially to blame for, this or that or whatever. And all I'm really focused on is why I became the person I became, like when it happened, how it happened, why it happened. And then how to overcome it, how to change all those behaviors and patterns in me. I'm kind of exhausted. It's, I think, 3:30 in the morning or so, 3:40 in the morning. I've been working 16 or 18-hour days every day. I run this bar alone for the most part now. I do have a couple employees, but none of which are up to speed enough for me to not be here while they're working. So I'm doing a pretty good amount of work here at the bar, and then I always have to make time. I try to do 2 or 3 hours every day of reading and trying to better myself in a variety of ways that I feel like I need it. So I got a book in the mail today that I started reading tonight. I've gotten through 25 pages. How to Stop Being a Narcissist is the name of it. I've been called a narcissist by several people, that I've dated in the past. A narcissist is a very, I've always felt kind of overused word or term or title that you would give someone, if you will. There's a lot of, you have narcissistic tendencies, you have narcissistic behaviors, but to actually have, what would it be called, NPD, narcissistic behavioral disorder, and NBD. Anyway, sorry, I don't know how I forgot what it's, NPD, narcissistic behavioral disorder. Anyway, to have that is narcissistic personality disorder. I'm so dumb. Jeez, oh dear. Anyway, in reading this book, I'm 25 pages in. It's already asked 100 questions about, are you a narcissist, or do you have like narcissistic tendencies? Oddly, I feel a little relieved to learn that, according to this anyway, I don't have narcissistic personality disorder. I don't believe and keep in mind, this isn't going to change anything with my processes and how and the work that I put in. But I don't think I'm an actual narcissist. I do have several narcissistic tendencies and behaviors, without a doubt. But more than half of the, probably way more than half of the actual, if you're a narcissist or narcissistic behaviors or tendencies, the actual narcissist doesn't, it doesn't relate. I don't relate to it. It doesn't describe me, oddly. I'm sure, people would disagree from my past, but that's also, I don't think many people really figure out or know or understand completely or fully what a narcissist is versus narcissistic behaviors. I definitely have some narcissistic behaviors, without a doubt, or I did anyway. They haven't surfaced in a while now, but I also, I'm also, my wife left me a month and a half ago. Speaking of that, when I went and picked up my son. I had to go to the store, and I went and picked up my son this morning. When I got here, one of my customers was here, and he said that someone was here to deliver me papers. So I'm almost positive that they are divorce papers, which is, not fun for me. I write my wife a letter every night. She left me a month and a half ago now. I write her a letter every night. I have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to overcome the reason that we are separated, which is that I have been very psychologically abusive and verbally abusive, and even emotionally abusive, and sometimes even physically abusive. Like I've so yeah, that's I've been thinking about it all day, because I'm sure that's what it is. And I know it has to happen. I don't know it has to happen. I know it's going to happen. So the only reason I'm actually fixing myself is because she left me. I think there's a really good chance I would have been able to do this if she had almost left me the way she did before. But then, because she almost left me back in late June. She left for 4 days or so, 3 or 4 days. And that's when it, hit me like a ton of bricks, who I was, what I was, and that was an abusive person, straight up. And when I realized that, it was brutal. It wasn't fun for me at all. I felt like an idiot. I still feel like an idiot. I felt like a horrible person, which I don't feel like a horrible person anymore, but I surely did for a while. I don't know how much self-esteem I have right now. I don't know if self-esteem, I am gaining in self-esteem, but I know that before I had very self-esteem on the outside, just not the type of self-esteem that I kind of thought I had, maybe, or I don't know. I got my confidence from kind of materialistic things. I don't know if materialistic, but like surface things, I guess, and not from internal happiness. Anyway, I always get so sidetracked, but yeah, so I'm pretty certain tomorrow I'm getting served with divorce papers for my wife. I thought about it all day long today, how I'm going to react, how it's going to feel. And I guess I can't say for sure. What I'm trying to convince myself of is that it's it basically will end up being the best thing that's ever happened to me. That much I do know, that much I do fully believe, without a doubt, that her leaving me was the best thing that could ever happen to me. My hope has been from day one that eventually she would see that I'm not a monster, I'm not an animal, I'm not a mean person, I'm not a bad person. I am a very loving, caring, person, I don't know, that had some major problems, and I've had major problems my whole life, as long as back as I can remember. But it doesn't mean, it's not that you're a bad person. It means you're a good person with problems, and that's what I was. My hope was that she would eventually kind of feel that way, but my hunch is that she has blamed me for all of our problems in our relationship, that she would have never, all of her instances of abuse that she, put on me were just, because of me, and they were my fault and my problem. That's my hunch, because that's the only thing I have to go off of. That's what she would say when we were dating, and then married, is that, she never treated anyone this way, the way she treats me. And, when she would, punch on me and stuff, it was because I brought it out of her, which, I know now that's not true. You've got to be responsible for your own actions, and you've got to be responsible for every action, and no one else can force you to do that. No one else can force you to hit someone. You choose to do that. No one else can force you to insult somebody. You choose to do that. No one else can force you to put someone down or belittle them or insult them or make them feel like, they're in trouble, or, you've got to be responsible and accountable for all of your actions. I know for a fact I've taken responsibility for all of mine, probably, and then some. But it's all I can do. It's the only thing that I'm willing to do is pretty much shoulder the blame for everything that I possibly can think of that I did wrong. I could not be any more sorry for every single instance of abuse that I laid on my wife, and there have been hundreds and hundreds of them in a short period of time. We were only together, I met her less than a year and a half ago, and we've already met, started dating, moved in together, got married, and now are separated, and tomorrow probably being served with divorce papers. So all in less than a year and a half, which kind of sucks. But anyway, back to my narcissism. Narcissistic behaviors are very, 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 very common with abuse. It's almost impossible for narcissistic people that exhibit narcissistic behaviors to also be simultaneously empathetic towards anyone else. They just don't go hand in hand. That's that's hard, because a narcissist has very high self-image, which I did not have, but I was very, very selfish. I had no empathy, very, very little empathy for anyone, including my wife. It's very selfish of me. But yeah, it's hard to determine whether things are selfish or if you're a narcissist. If any of you think that you're a narcissist, I would just actually do the homework. Just figure it out. It helps to. I mean, the only reason it matters is because you want to know what you're fixing. You want to know what you're after here. I have gone through, like, reading this book now. I'm on, like I said, page 25. All of this stuff has been covered in all of these other books that I read, like the emotionally abusive relationship, the Choices program, and then the Washington State domestic violence program, and then a lot of the YouTube videos I watch. All of these things have been covered in that. This isn't anything new for me as of yet, but I still will read it because I would almost guarantee I will find things in here that will help me. That will help me get better, be more healthy, be more empathetic, realize when I'm having narcissistic thoughts or behaviors. So I'm just, I'll read every word of it, and I don't read fast when I read. I try to absorb everything, because that's the most important thing, is absorbing what you're reading and retaining it. Skimming through things doesn't do you any good. It just doesn't. You've got to feel it. You've got to think about, like, this book asked me a million questions. Like, number one, do you live in a fantasy world without real problems, real tasks, or responsibilities? Like, you need to stop and think about it, because the only way you're going to be able to get better is if you are completely and totally honest with yourself. And it's not like, do I feel that way right now, or have I ever felt that way? Doing this is not a fast process. There's nothing that you can do to speed it up. Overcoming your behaviors and patterns and things about your personality that you just don't like and that you want to change. There's no speed lane here or fast lane to overcome it. You've got to dig deep, which is why I cry in like 90% of my stupid videos on here, because it's freaking hard, man. Like, it's a pain in the ass, because I think about every bad thing I've done almost every single day. I mean, that's an exaggeration. When I'm reading and going through this, you have dozens and dozens and dozens of thoughts and recollections about horrible things you've said or done, that I've done to my wife, said to my wife, the way I must have made her feel. It's hard. It's very draining, very taxing on your psyche, on your self-esteem, on the way you feel and look at yourself. You feel like a loser. I mean, you feel like a big piece of shit, to be goddamn honest with you. And it's hard to overcome that. The only thing you can do is you just keep telling yourself that you're getting better. Geez, night and day versus who I was 2 months ago, and that's the honest truth. There's almost no similarities. Anyone that would, my wife from a month and a half ago, if she were to spend a day with me, she would hardly even know me now. Like, it's a lot. Like, it's been very, very humbling, educational. I've learned a lot. I've overcome a lot. I have released so much anger from my body. It's nice. Like, it's insane how I feel about certain things that used to just like do nothing but piss me off. And I never even let them go past being pissing me off. They're just, that's just my instant reaction was pissed off, and like that's. Now it's just not like there anymore. But it takes a lot of work, a lot of humbling yourself for sure. But that's what we do if we want to overcome this. So that's my day. I'm kind of thankful to learn that I'm not an actual narcissist suffering with narcissistic personality disorder. And again, like I said, it doesn't mean I don't have many narcissistic behaviors, but knowing that it's a behavior, not a disorder, it only helps me because it helps me focus on my truth. I'm not trying to downplay my narcissistic behaviors, but it is just different to deal with, behaviors, because now I know what to look for. I know what I kind of know who. It just helps me know who I am. So knowing who I am and just having that awareness. Now, I know a lot of the rest of this book is going to get into how to identify, like when you are starting to think like a narcissist, or when you're dealing with an employee and maybe they are inconveniencing me somehow, and instead of behaving like I used to behave, where they were just annoying because they were inconveniencing me. Now my first thing is mostly like, think about how they feel, like what are they going through, because I have no idea. Like everyone is God's creature. We all have our things. We're all trying to go through life happy and successful, and we're all trying to be good people. We just are. It's just hard sometimes to know how to get there, and my employees are just like that. Like one of them, she called in sick 3 days a week minimum for the only 4 weeks she worked here, and I finally just had to say, I've just got to be able to count on you. But it didn't make me mad. It used to make me mad, and now I'm like more, I'm sorry what you're going through, because but I also know enough that it wasn't going to change anytime soon, and being able to run a business, you've got to rely on your employees, and so I had to cut ties with her, but not out of anger or anything like that, like it used to be. Now it was more like just I feel genuinely bad for what she's going through, and I wish I could help. I wish I had time to maybe help her in her personal life a little bit more, so she could actually hold a steady job, because that would be very good for her. But I can't count on her, so I had to do that as a business decision and not a personal one. But anyway, it's I've become a lot, 1,000 times more empathetic in my life, in my everyday dealings with people. Some of them are very, very mean to me, and that's a true story. There are a lot of things that people are saying right now that are very, very, very mean, and I just respond with kindness, because I know like they're being mean to me for reasons beyond what they're not actually mad at me for for what I did, for they're going through their own stuff, and so I leave it at that. Like, I know they're going through their stuff. It's not going to bring me down or affect me or make me angry. I just choose to hope that eventually they figure out what's going on inside them, and they can be at peace with themselves and not feel like they have to hurt other people. So anyway, that's that. If you are being called a narcissist, which so many of us are, figure it out. You don't need to figure it out so you can, tell people that you're not, but you need to figure it out, because that's the only way to get better, is to be able to diagnose what you are, who you are, how it started. I haven't gotten to that. I assume it's, similar to how I started, whether it's a defense mechanism or whatever. I haven't figured out how narcissism or those behaviors start quite yet, but I'll get there. But at least now I know what to shoot for, like what to work on within myself. All right, guys, I'm going to bed. Until next time, bye.